This is a table that was used to sign Ohio's Constitution in 1802, right before Ohio became a state. And that signing took place here in Chillicothe. And that table, it's a very kind of crude looking table. It was made by a local craftsperson using tools that they had, the rough tools that they had brought with them. It didn't come from the East. It wasn't imported. It was made right here using the materials that were available here in the brand new state of Ohio. Trees from our wilderness and craftspeople who had moved here. And we also have some items that belong to Ohio's first governor. And by taking a look at those things, we can learn quite a bit about Edward Tiffin and his family and what their lives were like. So it's more than just a written record. You know, those are things that give us a real feel for who he was and what he was all about. And then out here, very quickly, this is also part of the exhibit. This talks about how people survived or made a living here in the first capital, which, you know, at that time was just a few years beyond being a wilderness. And the craftspeople that came here, various trades that are represented over in that case, show you the types of things that were being made and sold to people here in this area. There are farm implements. There are implements used by various tradespeople, anywhere from making shoes. That wasn't something you just got out of a box. They had to be made by the raw material. Other various trades as well are represented in that case. So all of the items that you see there, are similar objects that are being pulled together to tell a particular story. So we've answered some questions like, what is a museum? What is an exhibit? What's the difference between an exhibit and a display? How do museums use their collections? And to answer the question about how museums use their collections, well, museums usually have several different types of collections. That the main one is the collection of your best artifacts, usually the largest collection. And that collection, the material in that collection, is mainly for using in exhibits, putting exhibits together. They can also be loaned to other historical societies or museums that may need to have items to help fill out an exhibit they're doing. Now, another type of collection that a museum or historical society has is a study or research collection, where you not only allow the public to look at the objects, but actually study them up close, handling them. And I will not break your hands if you want to touch some of this stuff. Now, one of the things that we do with part of our study collection is we use the items, usually items that are duplicates of lesser quality than some of the things that we have in the main collection. And we put together suitcase museums for students or for teachers who may not have time to bring their classes in here to take a field trip or a tour, but maybe they're studying a particular subject like early statehood in their class, and the teacher just would like to be able to have some artifacts for the students to handle to help them get a feel for the time period they're reading about and hearing him or her talk about. So, for instance, this one is called Settlers. There's a larger subject, I don't know where, or larger title for it. It's called Settlers and Statehood. There it is. And we have items in here from the settlement period that are similar to the ones that you saw in the exhibit. We have an axe in here that's made out of a forged iron with a wooden handle. We have, this is a powder horn made out of an animal horn, like a cow horn, to hold gunpowder in for that rifle that you saw in the exhibit. the kids could pick these up and handle them. We also have, if say they were studying World War I and they wanted to learn a little bit more about Chillicothe and Ross County's connection to World War I, well, we were the site of Camp Sherman, which was established in the summer of 1917 upon the U.S.'s entry into World War I that year. And this is where they sent the draftees and young men who were going to become soldiers of the United States Army and be sent over to France to fight World War I. And we have a canteen, a helmet. They can get some idea how heavy one of these things would be to walk around with all day long. You've heard about weapons of mass destruction. Well, weapons of mass destruction began during World War I. The Germans came out with various types of poison gases, soon to be followed by the British and the French who were fighting against them. And pretty soon the battlefields were just covered with poison gas. The only way to survive is with a gas mask, which is what's in that little case there. So that is one way that we use our study collection. Another way would be for people that were doing research, writing a book, wanting to learn a little bit more and add to what they're learning through their research by looking at actual objects of history. They can go to a museum and go through and look at the things on exhibit, or they can look at items in their study collection, or they can look at the other materials that are in storage in their main collection. And to do that, come on over here. To be able to find out if you're interested, you're doing a project in the future, and you want to find out what a particular museum has that might help you do that. All museums have collection records. Everything from a deed of gift, which is what they fill out when a donor donates something to them, so that the museum can become the legal owner of it, to accession records. And accessioning is where you place a permanent number on an object that will help you track that object from that point forward. And then catalog records where the items are put together by object category. In other words, if you wanted to find out all of the prehistoric items that we have, you could go look at a database that we have that tells you, that lists everything we have in that category. If you wanted to look at everything from Camp Sherman or World War I, you can do that. Now, in our case, you would need to come here to do that. It's all on this computer database. Other museums have their databases online where you can go to their websites and see the entire database online. We have about 3/4 of our database online, mainly the paper records in our archives and library and our photographs. We do not have our objects online right now. So anyway, that's about it in a nutshell. Wish we could have gotten into this in more detail, but we hope that just gives you an idea about museums and how they handle material culture. So.